And hello, today we'll be talking about the book Jailbreak. I will share the reading material, and feel free to raise your hand and begin the discussion. Now, here actually there is something I would like to discuss. I thought it's a wonderful way the author put it. The making of a prisoner. She talks about shame. Shame says I'm bad, while guilt says I did something bad. And those, like shame and guilt, she calls them powerful behavioral motivators. It is, I like this kind of description, to think of guilt and shame as a motivator. Like we are motivated to change our behavior in an effort to belong. However, when we feel shame, we assume we are unworthy and hide from connection. So you feel the emotion and you try to change your behavior, you want to change, and yet those feelings do not achieve their intention and purpose. So how useful is shame or guilt? Do you think, guys, shame and guilt can be useful?
I think it could be useful if we can like take a look at shame and say, okay, here's the message you're trying to send me. I'm looking for connection. And just receive that message. And then sit with it and feel it, and then, be guided by what comes next. But
so
for
Melissa,
me,
you
it would
think?
be not
Yeah.
allowing it to take the driver's seat. Because once that happens, no good can come from there.
Oh, I get it. So listen to it, to its message, but don't let it take the driver's seat. Okay. Yeah, Marlene, next.
Yes, I usually differentiate between guilt and shame, as guilt being useful because it's attached to an action. I can change the action. But shame, I was shamed a lot as a child, and shame involves the body. You feel it viscerally, it's a punch in the gut. And the only way to deal with shame, the conforming to what the group wants that shames you, whether it's family or a religious group, it's the fear that would motivate me to conform to something I don't want to do, to go along with it, to go along to get along. It's kind of a self-betrayal. So shame is very difficult to leave. It's hard to leave shame. It comes up like a part.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I am finished.
Yeah. It is interesting, Marlene. I do have a quick question here. Because here I've just read, when we are riddled with negative beliefs, shame sets in. So if somebody is a very negative person, they most likely have a lot of shame.
Yes.
It doesn't just stay at the guilt level, the lower level.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Christina?
I would say that shame is the painful, humiliating feeling that leads the individual to think of himself or herself as bad and unworthy. This in itself leads to a state of imprisonment and disconnect from feeling. And this is why I would never refer to shame as something good, something that uplifts the self. And it's not the catalyst for healing and liberation. it does lead ultimately to disconnection from other people, because this is a feeling that imprisons the individual. So no, I wouldn't refer to it as a good thing.
Yes. Oh, guilt. So it is. I'm not sure, because shame and guilt can be seen as a something not so consuming, so negative. Um, but again, like Christina, like from my parents, they shamed me, and to make sure that I motivated to behave in the right way. Because it was normal for me back then, but now with my understanding, I can see how harmful it can be. Yeah. Is Marie next? And Alina after. Marie? Yeah.
I believe Alina was.
Sorry, Alina? Yes.
Yeah, very, very good page here of this book. And my experience as I've been reflecting on guilt and shame for myself is that I think guilt is more like innate in the moment feedback. If I did something out of alignment with my personal values or integrity. So it's just like that internal feedback for me to course correct in the moment. And I think any extended guilt is result of poor parenting, where I am made guilty beyond and punished. I don't think by nature anything is punishing. I think that punishment from parents created this prolonged sense of I should feel guilty for a week, a day. So it dragged out the whole experience of guilt. Instead of being in a moment, self-correcting kind of guidance, it's used as a socialization into norms that are maybe not in my best interests, but to form me into fitting into certain social norms. The guilt is used against me as a result of that. Now you should feel guilty. Nobody should feel guilty. The guilt comes out automatically. It's not something that needs to last one a few seconds to correct the behavior. But this is where punishment really explored the innate guilt into something bigger than what it needs to be. And then shame is a whole new level of manipulation where, let's say I did something out of alignment with my inner self, and I'm feeling in that's moment of guilt. And in that moment of guilt, I am being, but there's somebody outside of me, probably a caregiver in a childhood, made wrong as a person for doing something, or made wrong for feeling something. You shouldn't be crying right now, Alina. Well, I'm a child. It's scary. So the shame experience was created as a result of me being wrong when I was just being me. In the moment, I was scared. You're not allowed to be scared, Alina. So like anytime it was invalidated, my experience in the moment as a child created that sense of shame, like, oh, I'm wrong for even being where I'm at in the moment. Right. And that, unfortunately, a much deeper experience, because in those early forming years, creating that experience over day in, day out, created shame as big a part of me, where for in the beginning it was wrong thing to create in me by my caregivers. They just were not aware enough, got the same thing. They just pass on the same behavior around children from their parents. So this is where I feel very mindful about shame and guilt, how I unconsciously sometimes use it within myself today, because shame makes me want to hide, run away, made myself wrong
Mhm.
when somebody invalidates where I'm at. Because
Yeah.
instead of hearing that they disagree with me, I go into that experience viscerally, physically, and emotionally into shame. And I don't see that, like, we just have different opinions. Instead, I go into like, I'm wrong. And
Yeah.
so this is unfortunately a very negative effect of very poor child reading for me. So, and
Yeah.
it's universal as we hear it. So thank
Yeah. Alina, just to say, there is an example here in this chapter, Carrie's story. And with Carrie, her parents invalidated her needs. And then when she got married, her husband's like, "You're not emotional. You're not opening to me. What's happening?" And it's like, I had my birthday. My father preferred to do like the football with my not to be here for my birthday. He wanted to be a coach and be with my brother, and my needs didn't matter. And whenever I asked for something, it's like, you don't matter. So we're like shamed to have those kind of needs and for connection. She was shamed in this example. And then it's like, when she's married, she's not vulnerable. Yeah. Thank you. Mary Jane?
you. Mute.
Thank you. Okay, here I am. So to say thank you, that was a great explanation of just how that just gets attached to us, how that whole shame it just like attaches to us. It's crazy. It becomes us. And so, yeah, it'd be really interesting to know how IFS can help us help separate from that.
Yeah. Thank you. Marie?
Hi. I love on page 78 in my book, under the making of a prisoner, for me, I kind of put it in the first person so I could experience this. When I am riddled with negative belief, shame sets in. Is that true for me? I ask myself the question. Shame is broadly defined as a painful feeling of humiliation, of distress. Have I experienced that? Of course I have. I believe it was suggested to me once from someone that there is a form of healthy shame, which is like extreme embarrassment. So, like if you're on the beach and you're wearing a bathing suit and it falls off because of the wave, and you go to pick it up, and anything else, things like that is a form of what someone suggested to me, that it's imposed on me by an outside external thing, and guilt is what I continue to feel after that imposition. And in the second paragraph, when I feel guilt, I am motivated to change my behavior in an effort to belong. Is that true for me? So I kind of put this paragraph and a bunch of the paragraphs in first person to see if it's true. And then, however, when I feel shame, I assume I am unworthy and hide from connection. Yes, just like when the bathing suit would come down, or if I trip and fall, I'm, first you're not going to feel that way, but what was imposed on me was, you can't do that, get up, these messages that keep getting sent to me. And I believe, like, healthy shame is almost like a defense mechanism, and anything else above that is that was imposed on me is more like I course correct. I need to course correct by giving myself these sentences of inferiority, or you're dumb, you're stupid, you're not enough, you're unworthy. And under it all is, I'm unsafe and I have to get the hell out of here. So thank you. I'm complete.
Gosh, Marie, have a question. Is there healthy shame I'm not sure. You mean shame? Like, when, the bathing suit comes off. Is that the healthy shame?
Well, it was because I felt very shameful
Yeah, I had a similar
in
experience.
my history, and because I'm from immigrants, and I always felt like I was going to get sent back to a different country, right? Even though I was born here. And so this kind of thing, I always, it was imposed on me. But I feel when I went to speak to somebody, they said, shame was given to you as almost like a defense
Okay.
mechanism, like almost like a healthy guilt and anything else. So I kind of try to defer for me, where do I begin and where does my ancestry end?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
Like,
but in a while it talks about burdens, so that will be interesting. The legacy burdens,
okay.
identity. So shame is tied to your identity. I am bad. It's my fault. It's all about me. But yeah, it's a fine line. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So I will move forward. If something catches your attention, let me know. So I'm gonna read a little. Yeah, Marlene, go on.
I was curious. I was looking at this polarization between being really successful, that Carrie is on the outside, and still having that belief of not being good enough because it says it was already woven deep into her implicit memory, a negative belief of which she had little conscious awareness. This is what drives me crazy, is that we're not even aware of these implicit beliefs and memories that come so early on. Like Mary Jane said, get attached to us so early on that we never get rid of it. And no matter what goes on the outside, there's this polarization on the inside that there's an inability to feel the success. Like, I'm going to give you an example. It happened yesterday. I went to a meeting. I'm 70 years old. I celebrated 27 years of no drinking alcohol. And this woman says to me, after I share my story and after the meeting, she says, "Boy, you are so beautiful. You must have driven the boys crazy when you were young." And I looked at her with astonishment because I've never felt beautiful. And the origin of that wound is when, as a little girl, I was in a nicely lit bathroom with my aunt and my mother. And the lighting was so pretty that it made me look pretty. And I blurted out, "Look, I look beautiful." And my aunt and mom looked at me with horror, like I was some kind of vain, sexualized person. It seems like they equated beauty with some kind of sexualization, and that word was never used. We were never praised in that way. And that image has remained with me forever, that horror look when I said that. So when anybody tells me, I look good or I'm beautiful, I like, there's a part of me that says, "No way, Jose, you're kidding me." And that polarity, like Carrie with the success, boy, that's a hard one to live with. We live with all these polarities, the inside and the outside. So thank you. That's what came up for me pretty strongly.
That's very powerful, Marlene. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And it is quite interesting. Yeah. Just because it's quite interesting with the implicit memory, you said when you sat with it, it will take you to where you've learned it. Normally, okay, that's been my experience with like clients. It, when you sit with the feeling, "Oh, I don't feel that," and it's like, where does that come from? Boom, like a memory comes up. Typically. So it is quite interesting that you can't pinpoint it, where where you think it might have come from. Thank you. Yeah, Alina?
Yeah, two things. Um, on the discussion of embarrassment, and I'll speak about this one. Um, I really think embarrassment and guilt is kind of interwoven. I found living for a decade and a half in Europe and then another 2 decades now in the United States, how what people get embarrassed about is such a culturally defined. Um, so that tells me that there is really nothing embarrassing as far as nature's concerned. Like the squirrels don't feel embarrassed when they cannot find a nut. Um, the birds don't feel embarrassed when they break their wing and they are struggling. Like there is no embarrassment in nature. I just think embarrassment is a human-made experience. But the sensation of the emotion in the body, I think it's um, closest to like guilt again, which is very easily used for manipulation and conforming to social standards. So that's just my exploration with the emotions. Um, and as far as this example in a book about this girl and her father is really relating to what I experienced, but most of my memories have been suppressed, and that's why I'm really excited about starting my exploration and in this world of parts work 8 weeks ago, to understand that with this technology of parts work, there is an opportunity for me to bring to conscious suppressed experiences that planted the seed of being wrong as a child, or being, I call it emotional abandonment when I'm in front of my biological father and he's ignoring me like I'm a piece of furniture over and over and over, and there's like no interaction with me. That leaves an imprint um, of emotional distress. And most of these memories I don't have recollection of, but I have a just hint so I can start looking at it. And the reason I haven't looked at it until this year is because I don't have memories of this. But seeing the patterns in my relationship over and over made me like, okay, there's something going on behind the scene, behind the conscious, that are recreating these patterns that consciously I'm like, I would not choose this, but yet I'm here. Something's happening behind the scene. And so I'm really excited about, and I've started the process 8 weeks ago when I first started studying parts work and experimenting on myself to where it leads, as I was told, to unconscious memory that I don't have recollection until that point, bringing to surface. And memory doesn't mean visual. Sometimes it's more sensation in my body, because before my cognitive abilities are developed as a kid, there was no cognitive ability. It's more like sensation, visceral experiences. So there is no language sometimes of visual to it. Sometimes it's just sensation in the body. And this is why this is like such a layered kind of experience of these parts work. And I really appreciate the opportunity to read examples in a book and hear your experiences, because it gives me more things to work with for my own exploration. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for the sharings. Yes, I've got a few thoughts around what you're sharing. One thought is when you said embarrassment, that was quite wonderful what you said. Animals don't get embarrassed. and yeah, and there is a part here to the book, the next section of the book, it talks about learning. Okay, and here I'm gonna read quite a bit of the book, a little bit of the book, so there's context around the theoretical context. So like embarrassment, if you think of embarrassment as a protector, okay, so it's the protector, she calls them guards. Says the guard strategies can look positively adaptive, and she's got a perfectionist guard, for example. Yeah, it's the motivation for the strategy that turns them into guards. Their job is to keep our prisoners locked away, out of public view. And a prisoner can be shame. You have like the shaming part that shames you, and the feeling of shame. The shaming part, or the critic, or whatever, that shames you, and the shame that can be the exile or the prisoner. It's important to note that the guards did not start out as guards. Guards are often forced into service in the name of system survival. Okay. So they are trying to help us with survival and managing connections with others. This can mean being seen it's safe, moving toward connection, or fighting or becoming invisible when it's not safe, moving away from connection. But how do the guards learn their roles? Usually guards have learned their strategies from watching or interacting with the influential people in our lives, like parents, other family members, teachers, or coaches, our role models, for better or worse. For example, I learned to be pleasing by watching my mother. She attempted to anticipate my father's every need and meet it before he could even ask. I learned caution by watching my father. He usually listed all the things that could go wrong in a situation or new adventure. Although he often came around, his first answer was usually no. Incarceration can also come from misplaced loyalty to our families. We start to believe that their fate is our fate. Okay, and there's quite a few examples here, it's quite brilliant. So, so my mother.
Question.
Yeah, well, yeah, go on. Yeah.
Just a clarity on the language. I've never heard the term guards until this book.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard the term protectors. Is it the same thing?
Same exact thing.
Know?
Yeah, exactly the same thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So she calls them guards and firefighter guards. Yeah, she explains in a while the different the definitions. Yeah. So and okay, so it's quite interesting here. It's like so my father wasn't successful, so who am I to believe I could be? That's just who we are. My mother drinks, is depressed, that's why I can never be happy. It's loyalty, such a loyalty to our families. And often we learn to treat the offending parts of ourselves the same way they were treated by our parents or other important adults. For example, the consistent denial of my needs led me to start denying my own. Oh, wow, how powerful is that? This was how my internal critic learned his shtick. Mimicking my father, the critic would tell me my needs were silly. So, and here's the kinds of trauma. Intergenerational trauma, a legacy of burdened beliefs. But I have also heard that trauma can take many forms, like cultural, intergenerational, legacy, I'm not sure. There are different types of trauma. Yeah, Alina?
Everything you just read made me really, really resonated and made me really sad, because I have a lot of patterns, as I mentioned, in relationships, romantic relationships, and also with money. And when you read that loyalty, I really see how there's something that's going on with that loyalty that makes me, despite my education and skills and effort, I just can't rise in some of the financials. And part of me feels it has to do with the financials of my parents, which is terrible. Okay, they are terrible. They're bright people, but financials are terrible. And there's something like that going on. And yeah, it's sad because I just feel such an experience of helplessness around it and futility. So yeah, it's just really hitting me right now. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It makes so much sense that we carry our parents' like burdens, and it is quite interesting. I'm like, why are we not letting go of that? Come on, why don't we let go of those beliefs? They're not helping us, around finances, myself included. Um, a lot of like fears from my family, and here is kind of something interesting. Why am I not letting go? Because despite being uncomfortable and stifling, it is familiar. Yeah. Marie?
Yeah, I instead of letting go, it says in the third paragraph, I resign myself to this confinement because despite being uncomfortable, it and stifling, it is familiar. So I ask myself, is that true for me? Yeah. Why? Because I want to save my family. I answered it for me. I kind of meditated on it. Why do I do that? I want to have a nest just like everyone else's nest. It doesn't matter, everybody's still dead. I still want to go back and recreate a more healthier family. So that's what I see happens for me. I want to recreate a better past. I want to keep trying to do that. So for me, I believe my critic comes up as my parents' voice, hands on the hips. Who do you think you are? Why are you going out like that? Do you know what you look like? All that stuff. Just I repeat the same cycle because in my mind, if I do that, I think that I want to create this better family, this better nest, because I look at your nest and your nest looks so cute. Nice red door, wreath on it. I want to do the same thing. So I think that that's where that comes from. And my guards know how to do this gig. I love that she said that. My guards they know it. They actually do it with music, disco music from the 80s. They're doing it. And so they know it. And when they're in their mojo, there's no stopping them. And, so I'm complete. Thanks.
Marie, I do have a comment on what you just said. This sounds familiar to my life as well. Okay. I had those kind of parents. And I understand that we try to reenact the trauma we had in our childhood by picking possibly the wrong partners, hoping that they will make it right. They will, how do you call it? I can't remember it. But they will release us from that. Come on. I know, like women keep going back to a violent partner, saying, okay, I grew up in a violent child home, okay, and I chose a violent partner because he feels familiar. But I am hoping he's gonna save me. he's gonna somehow, which is quite, that's really, it's a bit of a crazy anticipation to hope for something different, to reenact. Yeah, does it make sense a little bit?
Yeah, and as you're saying it, Vanna, I get a memory, and it's my critical voice. My mother used to say, she's gone since 1986, "It fits like a glove," she would say. So when you just said that, I went, a part of me, I don't know what part, authoritative part, protector, "It fits like a glove. That's why we do this."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I get the same sentence verbatim
yeah.
that I heard when I was little, real little. Thanks, I'm complete.
We still we still have a part that wants to be rescued. This is like hoping for the rescue, for something different. Yeah, thank you. Christina?
Well, speaking about memory and the beliefs that were encoded into our memory growing up that leads to imprisonment, I kind of, I was on holiday, right, for 2 months from school. So I really gave it so much thought, and I basically was meditating on this book quite a lot. And I realized that the beliefs related to toxic shame and deep deep embedded beliefs in my psyche that I'm unworthy are so strong, and in my, I would say, even in my subconscious, that they have been reflected even in my in the way I connect with people and interact with people. Now, I kind of developed my own system of unlearning these beliefs. And that is really meditating on the antithesis of everything that you don't want to believe in. For example, I realized that there is deeper toxic shame that I was suffering from. The antithesis of it is I want courage. So I realized that if I sit for quite half an hour every day and I would speak loud self-affirmation to myself, I'm not toxic, I'm courageous, and I trust the self to help me continue to be courageous. Keep repeating that over and over, time and time again. I think this exercise, as simple as it may sound, but has ripple effect on creating a new memory and generating new code that might be encoded into our psyche. And I kind of felt I'm feeling it's so liberating and so exciting to develop and adapt this habit. I wanted to share that with you, and I would like to hear feedbacks about what you have heard.
Yeah, Christina, I've got some feedback because the book talks about it. Alina, do you want to go next?
Thank you. I have been exposed to idea that while the default of the brain is wanting to go to the same situation and have a different result, right? But that's kind of definition of insanity. I want to do the same situation, put myself in all those same triggers and behave differently. But over and over and over shows me that that is literally insanity. It actually creates more traumatizing experiences for me and makes me less hopeful that the change is possible. What has been offered to me, as somebody else just mentioned, is that what actual progress in healing is to expose yourself to the opposite. Meaning, if I naturally gravitate to people who are dismissive, invalidating, hard to please, I can grow awareness that in this group of 3 or 5 or 10 people, I want to connect with the person, reflect if they are dismissive, invalidative, critical, and just recognize that my brain perceives them as family because those are the family characteristics that I grew up with. However, if I want experience healing, I need to put in effort and not connect with them and try connecting with somebody who makes me feel maybe not comfortable. Maybe they off the bat friendly. Maybe they off the bat complimentary, and not, although it's not the most natural people that I would reach out to, that's my opportunity right there to actually act and seek interaction with those kind of people. And at first, it might feel uncomfortable because there's nothing to fix. I don't have to prove myself to them. They're already validating, they're already praising, they're already warm and kind. So I think that's part of the trauma, is the wanting to fix. It's like an addiction to trauma of wanting to fix the situation. But what was offered to me is not to look to fix, but receive the healthy interaction that is also available to me. Because in every group, there is a dynamics of healthier, less healthier. And instead of looking for dynamics where I need to fix the situation, because what happens is that I was explained that I'm projecting mom, dad, grandma, critical, invalidating, dismissive, into whoever's in front of me, and I'll pick those people so they can treat me differently this time. But they will never treat me differently because that's their patterns of interaction. So, anyways, to the point that was said, in order for me to heal, I need to put myself and reach out to the opposite of the characteristics of my early caregivers and acknowledge that, receive that praise, receive that validation, receive that warmth without needing to do anything and fix anything. It's already there. And that also could translate as how I treat myself or how I communicate with myself. So, so that was some of the thoughts.
Great, thank you, Alina. Um, that requires a lot of slowing down and inner work. Yeah. Um, and back to the point of Christina, saying like positive words to yourself, how would that help? Uh, Now, here is what the book says. Oops. From a developmental standpoint, the beliefs we hold about ourselves, others, and the world become powerful predictors of our functioning. So the beliefs we hold about ourselves, others, and the world become powerful predictors of our functioning. This happens even if the beliefs we hold are outside of our conscious awareness. For example, notice the subtlest changes in your body as you read each of the following. And guys, I will invite you to do this exercise now in this moment. I think it's an amazing exercise. If you read this, I'm going to read the statements and you do it yourselves, okay? I am lovable. And notice how that feels. I am defective. I am powerful. I'm powerless. The world is safe. The world is scary. And then it says, our beliefs set the stage for how we show up in the world by literally changing how we feel in our body. The beliefs informs the meaning we make and thus how our nervous system responds. So, I mean, for me, it feels different when I read, the more like empowering messages and the like limiting beliefs, like, I am powerless, I'm defective, the world is scary. Those kind of things put me into a bad state. But um, but again, I am curious. I am curious because I think okay, I do, when I do sessions, I give clients a word, and I ask them to create an affirmation, like from the session, a kind of positive word they can take with them, and create a positive, like a positive affirmation around this word. But this kind of word comes out through processing. Okay, um, some clients can come up with, God knows, with like self-care, freedom, loads of different wonderful words, and they can make them into like a self-affirmation. But I am worried, I know, I heard you, Christina, that you have come up with the positive affirmations, and a part of me says that if you don't do your inner work, there might be another polarity. It says, hey, what are you saying? You're lovable? Hello, no, that's not what I believe. You're defective. And the more you say, I'm lovable, 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 you can say it 100 times a day, okay? And you might create that a stronger polarity.
Which inner work are you referring to?
IFS work, IFS therapy, parts work therapy, actual real therapy of going inside, witnessing your protectors, unburdening the exiles. That takes, I'm not sure that saying that I'm talking from the IFS model, and I'm going to say something else, okay? That the IFS model is not the only one that has saved the world. There have been other kind of therapies that have helped people. I still think it's the most powerful model to work with people. But before IFS, I used some kind of Buddhist approach to help my relationship with my son. It was not IFS. So yeah, so I think the trap with affirmations is, you can say, as like a part of me says, you can say something till the cows come home. If other parts don't believe it, they'll get pissed off, and actually they will mistrust you. They're like, what the hell are you saying? You're great, you're amazing, you're lovable. Let me tell you what I think of you, okay? Really? Give me a voice. The resistance can be so wow. Yeah. So I am dramatizing that a bit, but yeah. Yeah. Alina?
Thank you, Vanna. It's a really good topic. And what I found is that it's important for me to notice, especially when I don't feel uh well in a moment, if there is something critical that I just told myself, no, just to notice that language, and then ask myself, who's talking in my head? Because usually it's not me, it's somebody in my childhood used that phrase, just to bring awareness that how much of my uh subtle language has nothing. I've never said those things to me. It was told to me. That means I'm asleep. That means I'm completely unconscious. I'm on autopilot, right? Going in the wrong direction. And I think the point of affirmations is to create an authentic language with myself, to rewrite the code, to be more present. And I was told that checking in often with yourself, every hour, every so often, whenever you remember, is like, what am I feeling right now? And what am I telling myself in a moment? oh, I can finish this on time. Oh, I won't be there on time. Sometimes I leave literally 10 minutes and I have 10 minutes to get somewhere. And I used to say, oh my gosh, I'm going to be late. I'll only give myself my 10 minutes and I'll go into that additional stress. I have changed that. Even if I have left literally 10 minutes and I have 10 minutes of drive, and when the road slows down and I'm like wanting to go into that panic, oh my gosh, I should have left earlier. I actually do use affirmation. And in spite of the evidence of traffic slowing down, I tell myself, even though I see the traffic is slowing down, I'm still going to be there on time or early. Now, it seems completely ridiculous considering what I'm seeing in front of me, but it puts me in a calmer state of mind and making better choices as I'm driving because I am calmer. And believe it or not, I get there on time and early. And I'm like, how is it possible? In the beginning, it was really like mission impossible. And what I found out is that being slowing down, noticing the language when the circumstances are happening, and then choosing, despite of the circumstances, to say, I'm still going to be there on time. I mean, again, this is a practice, but what creates, here's my point. What I believe about affirmations is saying new language that is affirming to my desired outcome and immediately act on it. For example, as I mentioned, I have this thing with money. So I am using old sneakers. They look terrible. They need to be thrown out like a year ago. I'm still wearing them, right? So now that I am very intentional about using this techniques to improve my life, I said, okay, I'm going to throw away these sneakers and trust that the money will come in for new sneakers. And guess what? This morning, I tossed the sneakers in the trash. Part of me that still believes that old narrative that there won't be resources, there won't be the right shoes that I can find quickly, blah, 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 blah. Still think it's ridiculous that I did that. But I need to tell myself a new story. The resources will be there. I'll find shoes sooner than later and act on it. I had to put actions behind those words. So this is how I am starting to make real shifts in my life, you know? So it can be just words without action. I need to pay attention. And it is slowing down. It is truly dedication to this work. But honestly, I really, in a place of crisis with some of these patterns, I'm willing to put in the work.
Yeah, thank you. Marlene?
Yes, automatic negative thoughts. I'm thinking about the acronym ANTS.
Yeah.
And that's a top down. That's starting with the cognitive. And the automatic part is that it comes from the lower self rather than the higher self. It's from the survival system, the amygdala, the mid, that part of the brain reactivity. And it's really when I'm completely blended is when they reign. And to change it, I love how it says to change it bottom up, go to the body. Because if our beliefs are tied to how we feel in the body, we can change the beliefs perhaps through the body, through breath, through engaging the nervous system and coming back into ventral vagal. Because these parts that are automatic, these ants or automatic negative thoughts, they're pretty deeply ingrained and they're connected to instinctual survival. So they're very hard to overcome, because they're always there. So it takes a deliberate approach. And I like that, going bottom up instead of top down. Thank you. I'm finished.
Marlene, she talks about the breath here. in chapter 3, finding the key. Now I'm still, about the value of affirmations. I think we need to do like, Alina, you spoke, and I think it is important. Affirmations can be like, you can have them on a post-it because they're important. You take traffic lights are red, take a pause and maybe tell you whatever affirmation is. I want to be healthy. I'm healthier. I look after myself or whatever. I love myself. Or I'm good with money. So you make that a priority because it's important. If somebody is drinking and wants to drink less alcohol, maybe like, I'm saying that, coming up with some kind of an affirmation. Like, I'm not damaging my body with alcohol, but I am taking care with proper nutrition. I don't know, something, they do have some value. And it's important to do a U-turn to see, what other parts, how and what parts are reacting to this. Because if you're not doing it already, but you're just trying to ram it in, like push, and no, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna be good with my health, it doesn't, it hasn't worked for me. It works for a little while and then it doesn't. In IFS it's called a U-turn. You say something, what happens inside your system? Who else has concerns about what you're saying? Yeah. Marie?
Thank you, Vanna. I suggest to my clients to put it on a index card, the affirmation, and to kind of start simple, like I am enough, I am lovable, I am healthy, the I am as the precursor to the word, make it real simple, and to put it on a little index card and tape it over the toilet paper holder. And it's there. Put it over the toilet paper holder in the bathroom, because you'll tend to look at it when you go get the toilet paper, and there it'll be. And the mirror, when you put on your makeup or look in the mirror, or comb your hair, those kind of things. Those are my suggestions. Thanks for saying that, Vanna. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yes. And it is, there is power in that, and I still, to complete it. Okay, I am enough. When, if your client says that, what else happens? Is there concern? Is somebody saying that, I don't believe that, I don't trust you, who the hell are you? I don't know. It's a very individual thing. I'm still not I think there's value in the affirmations, and I'm still having a little bit like, can we go deeper into that? Yeah. So guys, a last little thing here. It's about slowing down, and because people have mentioned the breath, and so we can't contemplate doing something different until we realize we're stuck. The key to the contemplation stage is actually slowing down. So she's talking about slowing down and focused attention. She says, so let's finish with slowing down. It's giving yourself enough space to really notice what is going on inside of us, rather than reacting to what's going on outside of us. I give my clients the acronym STFD. Get it? They usually figure it out after a second or two. Slow the F down. I'm making a refrigerator magnets. But how do we actually slow down in those moments when our guards are convinced it's not safe? We use the brakes. So she says, she gives us a few exercises. And one of the exercises is like the breath and the 5 senses. Okay. The breath is the 4x4x6 breathing. So inhale to the count of 4, retain, hold for 4 counts, and exhale for the count of 6. And notice how different you feel. And other than slowing down, she talks about, like, there's a lot here. There's really, she talks about Mihaly I can't say his name, Csikszentmihalyi, with a book, the really popular book, Flow. Okay, but before we go down, I wanted to talk about the focused attention, because it's slowing down with the breath and the focused attention. To go into self, to go into our heart space, because the self is normally in the heart, not in the brain, the mind. We always trying to solve everything up here with the prefrontal cortex, not our heart. But to go into our heart space, how do we do that? You need to control your state of focus. Focused attention is your superpower. It allows you to decide what you will pay attention to. It's the difference between listening to whatever radio station happens to be playing when you turn it on, or intentionally deciding which station you want to hear. One makes us passive recipients, the other makes us active co-creators of our experience. So the exercise it says about how do we cultivate this focused attention is this exercise. To get focused, simply look around the room you are in and use your 5 senses to name what is perceived: sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. So she gives quite a few exercises for slowing down and cultivating focus. Guys, I will mention one more thing, because as we're like coming to an end, okay, it's about self. So she says living outside the prison can be thought of as living in the zone or being in the groove. Dr. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi calls this flow. Okay, so flow, I think she considers that. Yes, Paul.
Just to say, it's the book Flow is 99 pence on Kindle at the moment. Those are
I bought it. Yeah, it is. Yeah, a special price. And it is interesting. I've not heard it before. That flow is. She considers that self. And she doesn't call self. She calls it like the wise heart. It says when we access our wise heart, we can have compassion for all our guards and what they protect. From this place, we can witness the guard stories of how they came to be and what they're protecting. We can gain the guard's trust and be granted visitations. Okay. Oh, it's really interesting, because there's been some science behind it, but why the heart is so important. The Heart Math Institute reveals that from a purely physiological perspective, the heart has the most powerful electromagnetic field in the body. Its charge is literally immeasurable. Interestingly, the Heart Math Institute reveals that this allows the heart to operate separately, independently of the head, because the heart has its own kind of brain, evidenced by the presence of ganglia, neurotransmitters, and proteins, similar to those found in the brain. When we're taking our guidance from the heart rather than the head, we can have a different emotional experience. It's a calm, connected, peaceful state that meditators have known about for centuries. The Heart Math Institute researchers call this state heart coherence. This coherence is measured by something called heart rate variability. And negative emotional states are correlated with irregularities in heart rate variability, and positive emotional states with more regularity in the heart. Yeah? So Dick Schwartz, the founder of IFS, describes this state of coherence as self, and the author thinks of it as the wise heart. So if there is even science behind it, head over heart. Yes, Alina?
Yeah, I had personal experience with this in 2006, 2007. I had got to the most extreme stage of chronic fatigue. I had autoimmune disease. And I was already in Southern California, luckily. And I was introduced to some very, at that time, especially non-medical healing modalities. And there was a whole routine that I had to do morning all day long, day in, day out. And that was the first time that I was introduced to the heart math and their science. And because those non-medical healing modalities included these, now there's science behind it, but back then they were just really at the beginning of those discoveries. But to my surprise, I just showed up and did these weird things out of desperation to manage the symptoms in non-medical way. What, to my surprise, happened 5 months later of doing this day in, day out, I had to do it full time at that time. It was really sad that I was in such a desperate, critical physical health that I had to do it full time. 5 months later, I cleared not just symptoms, but the actual autoimmune disease completely.
Oh, wow.
And it was, to me, it seems miraculous, but now there is science behind it, right? Yeah, Hard Math Institute has been doing this for a long time, but they weren't paid attention to because they were so outside of medical model. So there is a lot of neurological, just like brain has a lot of neurologically firing neurons, so does your heart, and so does your gut. And that's why really pay attention to the emotional health and gut health affects your brain health. So all three systems have a lot of neurology and work together from minute to minute. And that's why I really like that this author of this book, I just spent some time looking at her personal web page, Angela. She really encourages really that deep dive on emotional health and looking at history of the family and incorporating and healing in all these, not just cognitive level, but emotional level, which is the heart intelligence component. I just, because of the physical health issues I had to work on cognitive, heart, and gut intelligence, all three systems at the same time. Results were still looks like miraculous, but I never had remission. I just had to maintain what I learned, and I had to learn a lot, obviously, because all of it was new. But I'm glad that now it's coming into like psychology field and therapeutic field because it is life changing for sure. You
I'm so glad to hear that it's been so powerful to you. I'm like, wow, it's amazing. Yeah, mind body connection. Guys, I will stop the recording for now, and we can continue. And thank you for being here. Let's see.